Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the 56th edition of Cinema Effect. I'm Zach, and I'm joined by Disney's number one hater, Jaden.
Good day.
Huge conflict of interest today for Jaden.
No, we've done Disney in the past. It's alright.
Yeah, but does it, corrupt your soul a little bit?
I don't dislike the products, I dislike the company, So if I've already had to forego that boundary of paying for the service, there's really no more conflict to be had.
Just open the floodgates at that point.
Yeah.
And PTA's number one fanboy, aka Fitzy, aka Liam.
Hey.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cinema Effect, the podcast where we review and talk about a different movie every single Monday. Find us on YouTube, Spotify, and all the podcast apps. So please subscribe. Podcast apps?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I said that. I think I said that weird. Anyway, subscribe. Follow the Instagram page to keep up to date with all our content. And as always, we'd love you to submit your questions, thoughts, reviews for next week's film in the YouTube comments section, or send us a DM on Instagram, whatever you like. Our specific question of the show will be very timely. Did you watch or enjoy the Academy Awards this year, 2021? If you knew they were on, that is, of course, because they just happened. So let us know. And if you didn't watch them this year, just let us know what your thoughts are on them in general. Are you interested? Do you give two shits what the Academy thinks wins all those awards? Let us know. This week we're reviewing The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which completed streaming on Disney Plus on March 23rd, 2021. That's meant to say April 23rd, not March, as I say it. It was directed by Carrie Skoglund. The genre is an action superhero drama. And the synopsis reads, following the events of Avengers Endgame, Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes team up in a global adventure that tests their abilities and their patience. Which, yeah, it does. I guess it does. Have we done an MCU thing for this show? I don't think we have.
I think we've talked about him in discussions and shit, but not.
Yeah. So that's I'm just prepping you in advance. We're going to do a section after we give our score for the show. We're going to rank everything in the MCU and this in it too. So everyone got their lists ready for that? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean mine's on Letterboxd, so that's locked and loaded.
Yeah, mine's too. But you're gonna have to read it out and explain why each film is where it is, just so you know. This show's done. We all watched it at a different sort of pace, but we all finished it around the same time last week when it finished airing. And I want to know what you thought about it, Fitzy. Tell me.
I thought it was good for parts of it, especially in the middle. But I don't know. Episode 5 and 6 were just kind of made it overall just okay for me, I guess. Just average. Yeah.
Jaden, what about you?
Yeah, I kind of don't know where I land on it. I think I'm kind of middle of the road, but a high middle of the road, And in terms of comparing this to the previous Marvel series we got, once again, I it's hard to identify where each lays. But I think, my overall feelings are generally positive.
I think I'm pretty on the money with you, Jaden. I like the show. My main takeaway with it is how well the show deals with its core story idea being the legacy of Captain America. Because that's what the heart of the premise is. And I was on board for that from the start. And I think it mostly delivers in that. I think everything about what that means, what Captain America means, of course, including Steve Rogers as a character, but broken down into everything about that identity and the world without a Captain America, the impacts of the shield, the serum, the race element, the ideologies you have to have, the morality of it, the government involvement, all of those ridiculous amount of elements that sort of they choose and analyze about that character. I think it's really interesting. And I don't know if it's cool to get that for a character that isn't actually present in the show, is by the end, but the traditional, Chris Evans version. So no, I like that a lot about it. And I like that it restrained from having a Chris Evans cameo or anything. I thought I don't know, they could have done that. I wasn't expecting it, but I thought I wouldn't have been surprised either, but I don't know. I thought the show had a lot of heart and enjoyed a lot of it. With that being said, I didn't think it was all great by any means. And after watching this and WandaVision, talking about the Disney Plus MCU content for a little bit, I don't know, my excitement and expectations for these shows on Disney Plus has been lowered, and I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. Like, I think they're just, the expectations are at where they should be now. I was probably a bit more excited than I needed to be. And I'm still here for Loki because I think that looks cool, but beyond that, we'll see. But yeah, plenty to enjoy, I guess. Why don't we start with the titular characters? You know that word, to titular? It's like,
Isn't it just titular?
titular? Am I adding a
I
syllable?
think you are.
Titular.
Yeah.
I guess so, because if I was saying to titular, that's like three T's. That's not right. Yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah.
Titular. Yeah. It's a funny word. I quite like it, to be honest. You got the Falcon in there. You got Sam Wilson. You got Bucky Barnes, and they're the team. And they're the best part of the show to me by far. Like, everything they do with both their characters, I think's great. I think really enhances their role in the MCU and my perception of that. I think the performance is really great. I love their chemistry. I think they got really good back and forth moments. And I mean, going to Bucky for a second, like, I definitely going in enjoyed him more than Sam, generally, just because of his role in the Winter Soldier and in Civil War. There's a lot more character stuff in those movies already for him, and what he goes through and stuff. Then Sam is sort of just like a sidekick, whatever, in those movies. So seeing more of him is great. I loved everything with him in the first episode. That flashback of him killing that dude, and then him having to realizing that, like, the old dude is hanging around with his son, and all that shit's really cool. I really liked it, and I really felt for him throughout the entire thing. When he was going around, he had his little list of names of people he's wronged, and he's like apologizing to people. That's all cute. It's all fun. And overall, just the character progression with him, of him by the end, it feels significant to the movies. This feels like, if you look at where we start with him, I guess he's in First Avenger too, right?
Yeah.
Where you start with him there and end here, it feels like a solid, consistent character arc that really plays to the strengths of the MCU being this interconnected multimedia universe. And him accepting, his sort of coming to terms with his past, accepting what he's done, and trying to go about handling that in the best way possible, the advice he receives from people, all really good stuff. So I want to know, Jan, how on board with Bucky were you prior to this show, and did you like what they did with him here?
Yeah, I think I was fully on board with Bucky. I really love him in the Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier is the best MCU product. Spoilers for the question, but ever since like his introduction in the Winter Soldier, like when he's on like the freeway or the highway or whatever, and like he like shoots the car and then he just like steps it, like it's so intimidating. He has so much presence, although he's not larger than life at that moment. He's just another person, and like it immediately announces what he is, and like from that point is kind of where I flashed onto him as a character, and I really liked it. And then everything from this show as well, I really liked about him. I liked I was really invested in his, like, what do you call it, recovery.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, and I thought it was pretty interesting, and I really love the relationship between him and the old bloke. I think that was really endearing, and I mean he was aware who he was. That's why he was there, but he just didn't have the balls to say it until the end. By the way,
right?
Yeah.
So like the moment of him looking through the door is like a thing for us, not for
yeah.
him. Cool, okay. Yeah, I didn't quite get that yet.
But as opposed to like I wasn't as invested in Sam Wilson's story. I was with like the Isaiah Brady stuff and like his like personal journey into being Captain America, but like the family stuff about the house and the ship, I really couldn't care about that. But yeah, in terms of Bucky in this, I was all aboard. All aboard.
All aboard the Hydra train.
Bit cringe.
Can you counter cringe with cringe? That's sort of what I tried to do. Anyway, I sort of feel that I didn't love the stuff with Sam's sister. I'll dive more into Sam in a sec, but I did like, oddly, I like the scene where they're at the bank and they're like negotiating the loan. I like that because it's like very real world repercussions of the snap. or the blip they call it, I think, in the universe, um, in a way that's obviously this entire plot with the flag smashers and the villains of this show is motivated by the same thing, like but seeing the effects of it like on the lowest of low ground level, real world mundane shit, I quite enjoyed actually. But yeah, what about you, Fitzy? Do you have a favorite between the two?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I do. As you said with the living up to Captain America thing, I think the show does do a pretty good job with that, and um, with Sam as well. Being a part of that, and his whole arc with the older man who I forget his name. He like
Isaiah? Is that
yeah, Isaiah. He was the prototype, or they tested on him the super soldier serum. Um, yeah, I thought the Sam stuff was good, and the Bucky stuff was the Bucky stuff was pretty good. One nitpick I have about the Bucky thing was that like they cut the scene like with the old man thing. It kind of you could kind of see that that's where it was going. He was gonna try and get some kind of forgiveness or acceptance, and they cut the scene where the old man actually has like an emotional reaction to that in his apartment. Like, so Bucky tells him that he killed his son when he was the Winter Soldier, and then it cuts to him. We see the old man's like expression for a second, but then it cuts to him outside of the like afterwards. He's just outside of the apartment and then kind of moving on. And I felt like that kind of really undercut, the whole redemption arc or whatever you want to call it, because you know, you want to get some kind of emotional experience from that. Like especially for me, because I'm not like particularly invested in Bucky or care enough to get so much from so little. I mean, apart from that, I think them two as just characters have good. I mean, them two as actors, I guess, have good chemistry and as characters, and I kind of forgot that at the start of this that they weren't actually friends already. So they kind of had to become friends, and yeah, that was good.
Sure. I mean, you went into a lot there. I totally agree with their chemistry, and it builds off. I like the whole thing of obviously they're going to become best bros, but like the conflict between them and the banter and like I don't know. There's some really good stuff in comedy in there. I know MCU humor is sort of a contentious thing amongst like literally anyone that's ever seen an MCU movie. Like it works for. It's definitely like meant to be more casual humor or whatever, but generally speaking, not to say I think it all lands at all, but generally speaking, I enjoy it. And I don't know some lines of dialogue they have to each other, like the whole the ongoing gag of like Captain America being on the moon, and they have like a back and forth about the Hobbit and how he read it in like 1945. That was all. I don't know. There's plenty of moments like that. Just two examples that popped out on the top of my head, but I find all that stuff really funny personally, and it only makes it all that much more satisfying when in episode 5 when they like have that heart to heart and they become bros at the end of it. I'm like, dude, I'm here for this. This is the top tier of the show by far. So yeah, and everything with Isaiah Bradley, you guys have both mentioned him already. He's great. That stuff was really cool, and I like how the show handles all the race stuff. Generally speaking, I don't know if that's been criticised at all. I can sort of see people criticising it just because of the nature of it talking about race. Therefore, it's going to get criticism. I thought it was awesome, and how Isaiah, pushed Sam to be better, in a way, in sort of a counteractive way, because he's like, dude, what were his words were something really harsh,
No
like any
self-respecting
self-respecting black
yeah.
man would ever want to wear, yeah. And then Sam goes back to his sister, and he's like, nah, man, this isn't. I'm not going to make these excuses to stop fighting for what I want to fight for. And that was really it's all great stuff. And then him getting emotional, them going to the exhibit and recognizing Isaiah at the end, terrific stuff. All the best stuff in the show, really by far, really touching. And yeah, man. I mean, the other major, the racist elements touched on so much in the show. There's that scene where they're like pulled over by the cops, and it's just it's a big. it's so uncomfortable, but in a great way. Like the show's really making me uncomfortable in the most effective way possible, I think, for what they're going for. And I don't know, his talk and his speech with the senators in the finale when he's like being filmed on ESPN or whatever it was. ESPN?
Sport Network.
Yeah, they were cutting from the NBA right to him. It was crazy. On CNN, I think I meant to say, or whatever it was. That whole conversation about challenging the labels of that people put on each other and using words like terrorists to describe the flag smashers, and him sort of pleading with the senators, the politicians, and the world by extension to sort of step up and use their influence in whatever way they can. You know, he's directing it at the Senate, who's obviously got significant influence, but, you know, and sort of propelling that to everyone who's listening, you know, to have a positive impact where they can. And, you know, as I say that out loud, it sort of sounds like a somewhat generic positive message, I guess. But I think it's poignant, and at the same time, knowing the human race, we'll probably never stop needing to hear it from media and wise people. I'm going on a bit here, sorry. But Sam, you know, the other thing with him outside of just those elements is the fact that it did what WandaVision did for me with Wanda. Wanda? Am I saying that Wanda? With Wanda? I'll say that with a weird little ting to it, definitely. But dude, I did not give a shit about Wanda like at all before WandaVision, and now I do. You know, I didn't love WandaVision, but like I liked what that show did for her and my investment in her. And the same goes for Sam here, where he was totally C tier sidekick in the movies. Had some cool lines of dialogue or whatever, but no attachment emotionally in any way. And this show brought that up to an 11, where now when he pops up in a Marvel film, I'm gonna have all that, you know, baggage with him. And I think at the end of the day, if that's what the show's trying to achieve, it nailed it in that way, for sure. And even that first scene, I love that first scene of the first episode. The first episode's probably my favourite, honestly. That first scene with him, like, holding the shield and you hear the Endgame VO, does a really good job at setting up, like, the journey he goes on throughout the whole show. Anyway, I feel like I've been way too positive, to be honest. I've been, like, overly... I just touched on, like, in a row, everything I really like about the show. So, what did you guys think about Mr. John Walker, who's the other sort of third, I guess, main character in the show? And how funny was his introduction scene? And have you guys seen the memes where he looks like the dude from Up?
Oh, yeah.
You haven't seen that? It's so good. It's so good. In that shot, you know, when he's introduced at the end of the first episode, he looks like the dude from Up. It's fantastic. I love it. Did you guys know anything about this character? Because he's US agent, spoilers, by the end. And I guess that's a comic thing. I didn't know anything about John Walker, so when he turned up in the show, I thought it was cool, because I'm like, oh, they're doing something original, I thought, or something I hadn't really seen before, with replacing Sam with a white dude and making that the thing and doing dark things with him. But had you guys heard of him? Did you like him?
I thought the episode 4 thing with him killing a dude with Captain America's shield was a very, like, kind of weirdly, like, shocking scene to watch. Like, it was very bloody and violent, and, like, to see Captain America's shield used in that way, it was actually kind of startling. But they really fucking did nothing with his character after that, and they didn't take those ideas any further, you know, which is part of the reason why I think the show really... The show kind of ends on a average note, because, I mean, the stuff that they do with his character, and, like, him obviously not having, like, the grace and mercy of Steve Rogers is cool, you know. And he kind of just like I guess he gets redeemed, or he becomes better in the end, and it just seemed so pointless in the end. And because I did enjoy watching his character for the first 4 episodes, and then even after that, I thought they might do something cool with, like, you know, that random Tina Fey or something. She comes in, and I thought she would, like, not Tina Fey.
The chick from
Julia
Seinfeld.
Louise Dreyfus.
What's that? Yeah, the
Yeah,
Seinfeld.
yeah, Elaine from Seinfeld. Yeah.
I thought she was like she was gonna antagonize him more, and like he would be led in a kind of the opposite direction to what he was led in. I thought she was like a mysterious, like dark kind of force, but no, she's just some person who's like hiring him, to be the next superhero or whatever. So I don't know. I found what they did with the character very disappointing. So, but I did enjoy watching him for the first, half.
No, I'm with you, Fitzy. It sort of takes what that moment at ending episode 4 on it feels like this is a significant story moment for the show, and it sort of just isn't. Like actually, where we end up, it sort of doesn't really affect much at all. And my thing with John Walker and his arc generally in the show is that it just feels rushed. Like I think if this were a longer show, or even if it were restructured a bit, like to where he, I think having a redemption thing with him long term is fine, but why does it happen now? Why does it happen here? I think it would have been a lot cooler for them to really dig into the villain route with him longer, or the anti Captain America symbol, and sort of stick with that longer, as opposed to dude. When Julia Louis Dreyfus showed up, I was flabbergasted. I was like, why is she in this show? Why is this happening? And then she shows up twice, and I don't really understand anything that she did. I don't get it. I guess. I mean, it's meant to set up future stuff, right? Like she's apparently. Do you guys know this character from the comics? She's a character from the comics. I don't know it though. What does she call herself? Val. But she's apparently a character from the comics. She turns up and sort of guides John Walker to become the US agent by the end, who's of course John Walker's main identity in the comics. I don't know. It was so it was weird. It took me out of it when she turned up, because it's like, I don't know. She's a big deal. You know what I mean? She's a famous actress, and she just turns up in the middle of this show and has 2 scenes. It was very jarring to me. So I guess we can see where they go with it in probably Captain America 4, or where whatever their million other shows they're doing. But in the context of this story, it was very out of place, very odd to me.
I disagree with that.
Do you go for
I
it?
disagree with what you're saying about John Walker as well. I think I don't think it was ever meant to be a redemption, because I don't think it was ever really in a condemned state. I mean, like, the show kind of positions it that way for a second in the fact that he did kill someone, but I mean, like, bullshit, Steve Rogers didn't kill someone by tossing a fucking metal shield at their guts in 6,000 Ks. So I mean, like,
not a bad point.
Like, I don't think it's the fact that it was it was an execution that was a problem, but like I still, like, that's water under the bridge in these days. But I think that the 2 scenes that she was in, she did have presence, and I think that was why it was so effective, because she was only there so little, but like you could see that she was already manipulating him. And I think what Liam's saying about, he didn't, I think John Walker is going to be manipulated into doing some dark shit in the future, because he is that US agent, he is that correspondent that's not meant to be known about, or that kind of covert person.
Right. He's going to become like a Black Ops operative.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? He's not just going to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I quite like the setup for that. And like, yeah, I don't think he needed a redemption, because I don't think he really did anything wrong. I understand, the execution is wrong, but I mean, like,
Yeah, I don't think he did anything wrong either. But the show definitely seems to think so. But then
the show gives the bloody shield scene weight.
But then I think the fact that it breezes over it so quickly also shows that it holds weight before a moment, the way that so many tragedies do these days. It's kind of the fact that, like, this is a significant event, but in a day's time, it's forgotten about. And I think that the way the show handles that kind of reflects that,
Oh, interesting. Okay. I can see that. I never thought of it that way. I was coming at it more from just the
from pure story.
Yeah. For in that sense, like, looking at that way, I'm with Fitzy, but hey, I never really. It's not a bad point, honestly. I never really thought of that. If that's what they're going for, that's fair. And I mean, your point about, like, I agree with you. I don't think he's out of the woods. You know what I mean? I guess the redemption thing comes from, like, within the confines of just this 6 episodes. Like, it feels like he has a redemption in the
Yeah,
sense of
I get that too, because like he chooses to save the people instead of going after Carly as well. So I mean, like, yeah, there's
yeah, and
that.
then sure, he loses the mantle of the Shield and Captain America, but he still gets validated by getting this new identity and like, and he's all hip hip hooray in his last scene. You know what I mean?
Yes, but that's because I think the manipulation's already started, and he doesn't realize that the path that he's going to go down.
Oh,
You know.
yeah, he doesn't know what he's in
Yeah.
for. No, that's fair. So I don't know. I guess that sort of leaves me more interested in what they're going to do with him in the future, to be honest. But I mean, to be fair, sort of building off of the whole, because to be clear, like I'm still very much in the camp of, I think the episode 4 ending thing, could have been used more effectively, as it being this big, that thing was talked about, that scene was talked about for a week. It's a big deal, especially in a week to week show like this. So it does have significant weight. I just dislike how they handled the end of episode moments throughout this entire show, to be totally honest with you. I thought the best one was probably episode 5, where all it was is Sam's going to go to battle next episode. That was fine. Like when the Wakandan shows up at the end of episode 3, it's like, you know what I mean? That when I watched it, I'm like, oh, cool. That's interesting. Are we going to, where are we going to tie into that world here? Are we going to get something for Black Panther 2? Like I'm just thinking, my mind starts racing when you end an episode on that and you make me wait a week. You know what I mean? That's what they're going for, right? It's what happens when you watch a show. And then it's sort of just nothing. They sort of just turn up and take Zemo. All right. Same thing happens for Zemo. I don't understand why he's in this show. He did nothing for me in the show. I like Zemo. I like the actor a lot, Daniel Bruhl, however you say his name. I think he's great. Loved Zemo in Civil War the second time I watched it. And he just did nothing for me here.
But he's needed to progress the story, you know what I mean? Like, he's the one that introduces him to Madripoor, and, he kind of introduces that extremist ideology of the eradication of the super soldiers as well, not just a containment type thing. So, I mean, he is necessary.
Yeah, he's necessary for the plot in the way it's structured now. Like, you know what I mean? It just, I get what you're saying, but he doesn't bring any depth to the show in the way that these other characters we've already talked about do. It's a past character that can make the plot for this work, because the serum needs, they need to track down the rest of the serum because the Flag Smashers have it. Who would know? Oh, Zemo. But he just doesn't, and that's a fine, don't get me wrong, that's a fine excuse to bring him into the fold. But then I would have appreciated if they'd done something more interesting with him, because he's just back where he started. Like, he's just in the raft, okay.
I don't know, I really liked him. He's played like really comedically. He's like comical,
he is,
which is
surprisingly, yeah,
really weird. Yeah, because he has killed a bunch of people. I don't know. He was just a good presence. Had some good one-liners and everything. Yeah, I mean, I think he is a bit thematically relevant, because the whole show, which we haven't really even talked about yet, is about all these ideas about power and extremism, and everything that he was dealing with in Civil War, and he brings his own perspective on this as well, which is a big part of this story. So yeah,
no, that's fair. No, that's a good point. Especially, his relevance to the conflict that Sam and Bucky are dealing with the Flag Smashers is the fact that his whole thing against any sort of form of supremacy, which, as you say, is very, very relevant to him from what we understand about him from Age of Ultron and so on. So that's fair. I did like when he put on his cool purple mask and shot people, though. That was cool.
What do you guys think this is trying to like? Film this show is pretty. It brings up political stuff a lot, and it seems to have a lot of intentions. Or what did you guys get from like the messaging? Because to me, that was like the biggest part of the show, to be honest. And it kept coming up with like every character pretty much, Zemer and Carly's character. She kept talking shit. Sam.
She talked so
had the
much, dude.
conversation.
Oh my god. Yeah.
But yeah, what do you guys think this show was like trying to say?
I don't know if it was trying to. I want to get your thoughts on this, Jane, because we talked about this interestingly, I think, a couple of weeks ago, sort of briefly. But I don't know if the show's necessarily trying to say anything in that sense. I think it's just exploring those ideas. And I think the natural, like in a post-nat world, the different, them putting thought into the different factions and ramifications on the populace of the planet and what factions would spawn from this. What would their motivations be? How would this counter with our protagonists? How do we sort of put them together and make the conflict interesting? That's sort of just the only way I look at it. I don't know if it's necessarily taking a viewpoint on any of that necessarily in terms of the globalization stuff. I assume you mean, right? Or so what's the right term?
Globalist.
National global. Yeah, sure. Globalism or whatever. Yeah. Is that what you mean, Fitzy? I assume I'm interpreting it right.
Well, the show is definitely taking some kind of stance because it's saying that these people are, that the flag smashers are wrong for what they're doing ultimately. I mean, I don't know. That
I don't know if I got that
seems
wrong.
To be the case, but yeah, I don't know. It's just like it's confusing, I guess, what they're trying to go for.
I think they walk a pretty
because
delicate
they
line.
do have an impact in the end.
In terms of what the flag smashers represent, I think they walked a pretty delicate line with supporting him, not supporting him, because they kind of position him as a villain, but then at the end they kind of reverse that and they're like, oh, she's not a terrorist, but she literally is a terrorist. Search up the definition of terrorist: someone that inflicts violence or pain for political motives. That's what she did. Fucking idiots. So like, but I think they're careful to not really push one way or another too much with it. And I think in the context of like any superhero product, it's gonna be a similar thing. I don't think they're ever gonna fully endorse or not endorse one way because they have such a massive fan base that they can't risk antagonizing part of it. It's the same way I remember there was an episode of Arrow like a few years ago that dealt with gun violence where there was like a mass shooting in one of the buildings and stuff. And like, it's the episode is positioned very anti-gun or whatever. But then by the end, it comes around, there's like some character revelation. They're like, oh, I mean, I guess if we can do this and that, then it can be better and shit. And it takes a very balanced perspective and think that's what all of this is. I think some other stuff in the show, like they think that, what power brings out the worst in people and that shit, I think that's a pretty definitive stance that they can take because that's not too contentious. But like, even with like the race stuff, they have to, I think, of superhero fans, you're gonna have a really toxic fan base. So I think even with the race stuff, it's kind of not necessarily like one sided, but like it like they watered down how much they can go with it, And I just think that's why I don't think they're really, you're saying what you take from what they're saying. I don't really think they're gonna try and say too much, and that's why I don't really take away that much. They're trying to make you aware rather than inform you what to think.
I agree to an extent. With the safe stuff, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, they bring up these ideas, and earlier on, it's kind of interesting, but inevitably, they kind of go close to like not having a position as possible. But just I'm talking like in literal terms, like the ending message with talking to the senators seems to be like, we all need to advocate for goodness and not try to do things through violence or extremism. But that's weird because the flag smashers do have an effect in the film, in the show, and the policy ends up not happening because of their actions.
No, that's fair. I sort of, I don't know. I didn't really think of it as contradictory necessarily in the moment.
I think they're trying to start a conversation rather than finish it. I think that's important for how many people.
That's the best sentence ever. Thank you, Jan. They're trying to start it, not finish it. Yeah, I think that yeah. I'm trying to come to terms with my own thoughts of this in the moment too. That's a great way to put it for how I sort of interpret it as well. But hey, let's talk more about the flag smashers. I like these conversations that it brings up, honestly. Carly. I like her look. I like the actress, and I like that she sort of like she looks like sort of a misfit villain, and I think that sort of works for what they are in terms of just these regular people that have literally are misplaced in the world. And I liked her performance, but dude, I like all the stuff we're talking about with them from an idea perspective. The second we start actually talking about them in scenes and what they do, it's not completely loses me. I it just spins its wheels. Episodes like 3 and 4, they do nothing but have the same conversations over and over again. It drives me. I found it really boring in those episodes.
I think the blindness of these characters is kind of what pissed me off as well. I mean, like, the fact that she was so ready to, start murdering people, but then she talks about, the kindness of the world and shit. I'm like, fucking, I think.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. But my thing is though is that it doesn't really feel like it grows beyond that. Like, how many scenes in the show can you count where she's talking to one of her dudes, one of the Aussie guy who's there, which is cool, and she's like, violence is the only language these people understand, innit? Like, how many times does she say that? She says it so many times. And, like, we cut to her in episode 3 and she's saying the same, she's having a conversation. Cut to her later in the episode and she, like, does the one mission where she blows up the, like, was it the embassy or, like, somewhere significant to someone or whatever. And then we're just following, it really started to bore me to tears. Like, I feel like, really, you can take, with the Flag Smashers, you can take episode 1 is just basically a teaser for them, so whatever. Episode 2, we're probably introduced to them. And you can take episode 6 and it's fine. Like, okay, we understand who they are and what they want. Episode 6, they attack the vote in New York. Done. Like, there's nothing that really happens in between for me that intrigues me. Every time they popped up in the middle episodes, I'm like, dude, can we please go back to Anthony Mackie? That's how I felt,
How do you guys feel about the power broker and the reveal?
Not
That
good.
was fucking dumb.
I saw these things online and they're like, oh, Sharon Carter's going to be. I thought that was way too obvious, and I thought if they can't go with that, they can't do that. There has to be some person bigger than her. But then when they kind of did that, and like, I don't know. I really disliked the reveal that she was a power broker. I mean, it was. Yeah.
I dislike that. I dislike Sharon in the show. I dislike the idea of the power broker anyway. Like who else could it have been?
Well, I saw a thing
in
saying
the
that Howard the Duck's going to be the power broker, and I thought that would have been hilarious.
Oh, that's great.
I was like, if this is the power broker, that's going to be great. But then, had it been anyone else, it would have been a massive cop out because for the power broker to be mentioned and to have this kind of presence without being seen, it'd have to be someone that we're already aware of. And there's not really many people that we're aware of that could have taken that place. And that's why Sharon was the obvious choice, but was a shit choice. And Howard the Duck was an awesome choice, but a really obscure one, Because we have seen Howard the Duck in like a Guardians of the Galaxy post-credit scene or whatever.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even like he'd be completely new. So like,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, like I thought Sharon Carter's that was horrendous.
Horrendous.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying I didn't think it was obvious that Sharon Carter was the power broker. Like, I didn't see it coming because I didn't spend 1 ounce of my brain considering who it was because I didn't give a shit. You know what I mean?
Oh, really?
I just, when they set up,
I
could not care less. When they were talking about the power broker in episode 3, and they're just like, oh, a person controls the serum and the exchange and the economy of the place. I'm like, dude, I just did not care. The show did nothing to make me care. And then I forgot about it. Like, I don't think episode 5 brings it up at all. And then I completely forgot about it until we get there. And she's like, oh, I'm the power broker. I'm like, all right. It was in that moment I had the thing of like, well, I guess I hadn't thought about this, but I don't know who else it would have been, I mean, I found the whole subplot boring, and the resolution incredibly unsatisfying. I get they're setting stuff up. You know what I mean? This is where, like, this is not an excuse for uninteresting storytelling in the moment. Like, they're setting stuff up, just wait, Zach. Like, that's I'm not excusing it. But, like, we have that post-credit scene with her, and she's, like, plotting more shit. It's like, okay. So we're going to see more of this. Maybe I'll like it later. I don't like it now, though.
As far as I'm aware as well, like Agent 13, who Sharon Carter is, has always been a good, I don't think they've ever really like dipped to a villain plot with him, like, or a portrayal type thing. So that's why I was like, and I've always liked her character as like that kind of I've always liked her as a good guy. I don't know, in its most basic terms.
And
And
yeah. It's sort of that ally to the team. Yeah,
and I liked her in the first few times she was introduced here because she's kind of like the wronged and she's had to adapt and shit. But then when the prospect of her being this overarching villain kind of cropped up, I was like, that sucks ass. But
I mean, she only had like what, I don't know, probably 4 minutes screen time in Civil War. But I liked her in that movie, and especially her sort of obviously being related to Peggy and that significance for that with Steve and stuff. Like I liked that stuff. But then when we get to her here, Steve isn't around. We got no connection to Peggy at this point. It's just her by herself. Yeah, it's uninteresting. And then when the actual final, like when the scene where it's revealed in the underground is also just sort of awkward. I want to talk about the action because, I mean, it's in the genre, right? Like it's a superhero thing. There's some action in this show. Didn't love it by any means. Some of the choreography and fights is cool enough. It has its moments. Everything with, and I can't believe I haven't said this already, by the way. Sam's Captain America suit is amazing. It's phenomenal. And everything they do with it, like when he's like flying around with the chopper and when he's using his wings and stuff like in combat, all that stuff's really good. It's definitely the best the action ever gets in the show. Before that, I don't know, it looks kind of cheap. It lacks impact. It cuts away at weird times. And it's a shame that it sort of carries that same Disney Plus feeling production-wise in the budget. You know what I mean? It's just not the whole thing. I know you really suffer from this with The Mandalorian, Jaden, and I totally get it, and I totally felt it here.
I thought
the whole thing's just...
I didn't think this show gave away its budget as much as The Mandalorian does.
I don't disagree with that. To be honest, I could probably try and analyze it more if I would have rewatched The Mandalorian, but like, for more than anything else, it's probably just my Star Wars bias. It sticks out to me here. It feels cheap at times. Like, it's so clear, and I appreciate the trying. They try and like make the grandness of the sets and everything feel like an MCU film. But when they go to, where is that? Is it Madripoor?
Yeah.
Is that where they go?
Yeah.
When they go there, like a lot of the establishing shots just look whack, and they use weird lens flare that looks really off. Were you guys noticing all the lens flare they use in this show? I don't know. They use a lot of weird lens flare that looks really fake. Like it's definitely not in camera lens flare, and it really put me off multiple times.
It's where Michael Bay has a one-up on him.
J.J. Abrams, yeah.
Doesn't Bay use him in his films too?
Like... Yeah, totally. Yeah, they're both.
I was gonna say, I feel like in Transformers, I'm fucking blinded by flashbangs.
Hey, like, I'm not a hater. I mean, it's totally hilarious and fair to make fun of it.
Oh no, I really like it.
At least in those, I like it too. And when it's, it can be overdone, but like, it's a stylistic choice.
Yeah.
And when it's all shot on camera and shot very deliberately, it feels cool. In this show, I'm not obviously. I could pull up. I can think of it. I can picture it. I can pull up screenshots where it's like, that is not in camera lens flare. That looks garbage. And I assume it's only there to sort of, in some way, disguise some of the weird, like stagecraft background stuff they're using for these shows. You know what I mean? That tech they use that I know sort of looks weird to us in The Mandalorian sometimes. That's the only thing I could think of. That's speculation, but like, it's distracting in a way. I think they're sort of trying to hide shit.
I think the novelty of the shield as like a kind of new dynamic in hand to hand has worn off as well. I think they utilize it really well in the Winter Soldier as well, with like the way that Bucky is able to manipulate it because he's so strong as well. And like, I think the whole shield combat thing was kind of interesting because it's not really seen. But then by the time you get to here, and we've had 8-9 films, we have many of that being used, that novelty is worn off as well. So that's kind of where the action kind of became a bit lackluster. And also it was just like because all that the flag smashes are when they're going up against Bucky Barnes are just two strong people hitting each other, and doesn't really seem. I think your point about choreography is most evident there. It doesn't seem that well, choreographed. So yeah, I can agree with that.
Totally. And to that point, I mentioned the stuff with him using his wings and the shield was cool. The other best part was when the Wakandan army or whatever they're called, when they had a little quick scene, that was also pretty good because it felt different. You know, there was a lot of the punching, and even the John Walker, Bucky, Sam triple threat in episode 5 didn't really do much for me either. Sort of in the same way. It's really cool.
What's the point of the super soldier serum if everyone can throw the shield at that like level?
That's a great point.
Because I mean,
why can he throw the shield?
That's insane. How? Because when John Walker was first introduced, I thought he already had the serum. Because they showed that like that little montage of him as well, like just fucking tossing and shit. Like,
oh yeah.
Like
But in that first episode, I also thought he had the serum because like that dude, like he got hit by the serum guys. He like got hit off a truck and onto like the road. Like so much shit happened to him. He got so much of a beating in that first fight scene. But then it's like,
he was fine. Yeah,
I definitely thought he had the serum, but no.
That's a great point. The action does a poor job of recognizing and building to the moment he gets the serum and having a clear difference in action moments. Yeah, that's a great point. And, MCU action is definitely its own style. Like, in plenty of the MCU movies, like, people who don't have... Like, I think in Civil War, like, Falcon falls, like, multiple stories and stuff, and they're fine. And that's fine. I can buy that. I'm not, like, sitting here going, that's not realistic. You should have broken his spine. But when it's important to a story beat like with John Walker, it stands out. You guys got any comments on the score? And I know that, like, historically, MCU should kind of criticize musically, and I think, like, if I think back to like Thor and First Avenger, I totally get it. But I think one thing that the MCU really needs to be credited for is its improvement in its music. And for me, that really started with Infinity War noticeably. Going back to Civil War was also really great because Henry Jackman did the score for this, and he did the score for Winter Soldier and Civil War as well. Really great stuff. I wouldn't have noticed this at all if I hadn't have just watched Civil War a few weeks back, but recurring themes coming back. They use Zemo has a theme I noticed, and it's used. Falcon has a theme. Really appreciated that they're making leaps and bounds in this area for me.
I didn't really notice it, so I'm not sure, but I do see what you mean with them improving over time with the motifs and themes and all that. So I'm sure it's subconsciously registered.
Right, your brain noticed. Yeah. No, if it's definitely the improvements are there, and like I said, I wouldn't have noticed without going back, but they're putting in the work in that regard. Did you like it, Jane? Did you like Falcon's theme? It's like it's a tune that plays in the credits.
Yeah,
I think it's like a rearranged.
Like I think I agree to your extent that there is more of a recognizable theme, but I think this show didn't really have it for me. I think in terms of like the two series we have so far, I think WandaVision had the more identifiable score because it's adversity and like it's in like regular stuff. So I mean, like I think, but like I think this was kind of more action, regular stuff, and that I generally pick up on.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, at the end of the day, I want to point it out because it can. You're absolutely right. It can be hard to notice, like MCU being this. It's a superhero genre. It's an action genre. The scores are typically harder to notice. So that's sort of why I wanted to highlight it. Otherwise it can sort of go underappreciated.
Yeah, Age of Ultron's always remained as my kind of highlight for the score because I think there's a few tracks off that I remember that I quite enjoyed, but then other entries in the series have kind of been a bit lackluster.
And last sort of, I don't know, moment I haven't really mentioned. Shout out to I'm a big fan, as you guys probably know, as anyone who listens to this knows, I'm a big fan of like using the often overlooked mundane elements of filmmaking and TV show construction to like create moments. And that's why I really like at the end when we get the title change to Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Just a subtle touch. I really enjoy when they put thought in to do little things like that. Because at the end of the day, for me anyway, like it's cool when a title popping up is like a hype moment. It's like cool,
Oh yeah, I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but Wyatt Russell, the guy who played John Walker, I thought he he like played him very well. He like played the kind of upstanding but kind of angry, arrogant kind of person really well. So
I think it was a good highlight of what an American is, or at least
Yeah.
what like media has painted an image of American as.
Be careful what you say,
Hmm.
Jaden. The US is our second most listened to market.
Really,
It is. Careful.
I've spoken out against the Yankees before on this show,
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do it too.
unless you've
Get
cut it out.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, it's true. Fitzy, you've totally saved me. Thank Christ. I have trivia. Wyatt Russell revealed that he originally auditioned for the role of Captain America for the first Avenger in 2011, and that was his very first audition. Chris Evans, of course, got the role, and Russell got to play the next incarnation of Captain America in this show. Or, as the trivia sort of fails to point out, this clearly, deliberately sort of demented version, or this skewed version of what Captain America is meant to be, which is funny because if you think about it, like you got the audition, oh, you're not really right for Captain America. Well, that's sort of the whole point.
Yeah, you're in for a shitty Captain America.
Yeah.
I think Russell's Captain America is a better reflection. Yeah, America.
They nailed it. That's actually a solid place to start. Like if they're trying to cast this character, who failed the audition in 2011? Let's go right there. Luke wrote in a review for The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And he said, I really enjoyed The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I thought it was much better than WandaVision. I said that again. WandaVision. It fit the MCU much better. That scene of Zemo dancing was great. I love how that's the first specific thing he mentions. I had an invested interest in Isaiah Bradley's character, and I loved watching Walker go off the rails. The costume reveal in the finale was hype, it was. If the Hawkeye series and Loki series are like this, I'll be happy.
Hawkeye's about his daughter, right? Not actually Hawkeye.
No, it's about Kate Bishop is not his daughter, right?
Oh, okay.
It's like, but he's an apprentice.
Okay. Right.
Same shit. Yeah. But he's in it though, right? Jeremy Renner. He's there.
Aaron Cross.
He is. He is in it. Aaron Cross is in it. Yeah. Great.
God, that'd be amazing if the main villain of Hawkeye is Jason Bourne.
Dude, they got Owen Wilson. They can do anything. Matt Damon turns up. I mean, Matt Damon's already canon in the MCU as that guy from Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, that's right.
As an actor. Yeah.
What did you think? Final verdict, Jaden?
Well, I mean, I've kind of talked a lot. I've talked rather positively about it throughout this. And I'm not sure if that's because maybe I like it more than I realize, or maybe... No, fuck it. Maybe not. Yeah, we'll keep it at a 7, prone to change to an 8. We'll put a strong 7.
Strong 7. Fitzy?
6 out of 10. It was engaging throughout. It was entertaining enough, so okay, I would recommend this type of show while it's on, or close to its release date. It's not something I'd recommend, in a couple of years down the track or something like that, as a TV show to watch. You got to watch this kind of thing. But yeah.
Right. Do you think sort of being with it as everyone else watches it in the quote unquote conversation elevates it? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. As a event kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel that. I'll give it a 7 too. I thought it was solid. I liked it more than WandaVision. I said that again.
That time was better though than Wanda.
Was it?
Yeah. WandaVision.
It's so weird. So odd. Anyway, I'm not quite as. I largely agree with Luke's review. I'm not quite as he said he liked it much better than WandaVision. I wouldn't say that, but I did like it better. Very good.
Nice.
Let's get into news chat. That was fun. That was good. So the Academy Awards happened unbeknownst to me. Jaden also didn't know. Did you know, Fitzy?
Yeah, I was gonna watch. I wasn't gonna watch them. I was gonna watch a streamer, commentary.
I love that. I love doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, as Adam from Your Movie Sucks, he was doing like a Twitch stream for like casting or something. I was gonna watch one of those, but I didn't. I was asleep at that time, so yeah, I missed it.
I had a very strange moment where I walked upstairs to make lunch, and it was just, and they were literally presenting Best Picture, and I thought my first thing was, because you know how it looked all weird this year, I was like, oh, this must be like some like the Screen Actors Guild Awards, or some weird
the
not the
Gotham
Oscars
Awards.
Awards. But sure, what? Yeah. The Razzies or whatever. I thought this was some non-Oscars awards, and they were actually happening. And I was like, oh, so I literally walked in and saw the main thing I needed to see, which was the Best Picture win and the actors both.
That happened to me. This is kind of spoiling next week's question, but that happened to me last year. I think it's the first time I've actually seen the Oscars when Parasite won and everything. It was just on TV, and I didn't even know it was on. So
that's what's funny about it, is that I've sort of had the reverse thing of last year. I knew it was happening in advance. I watched the whole thing, sat there and watched it. Like, so I don't understand how I didn't know it was
I
happening.
knew it was
So, like,
coming
because
up, but I just didn't know so soon.
Yeah, and I should have realised, because we're literally now in May, and like last year they were in like February or something. So like I should have understood. In my head, I was just like, oh, they're coming.
Yeah.
International Best Film was Another Round. Fitzy won that one. Promising Young Woman Best Screenplay. Shout out, My Octopus Teacher wins Best Documentary. Absolutely deserved. And the main ones here, right? Best Actress Frances McDormand for Nomadland. Best Actor Anthony Hopkins for The Father. Best Picture Nomadland.
Director?
Yeah, director.
Chloe Zhao.
Yeah.
Tenet won Best Visual Effects. Should have won Best Picture, but what can I tell you? You know what I mean?
Best score, perhaps?
That's a great point. Soul won that.
I can respect that, but there's nothing quite like, A Rainy Night in Tallinn,
No, there's nothing. Oh my god, it's so hype. Speaking of Another Round, Fitzy, do you care for an English remake, which is happening?
I mean, it depends if
Leo DiCaprio is attached, by the way.
Yeah. If the group has chemistry, I guess it could be good, but it's really unnecessary, I guess. Yeah, it's a good movie by itself. Doesn't really need a remake. Yeah. Watch The Hangover. That's an English version,
right? Yeah. Get Zach Galifianakis in there. My whole thing with this is that, like, if this were like an international, I don't know, not even a short film, but like a film that didn't receive a lot of recognition, it's sort of obscure and stuff, and they want to take it, and like, that's cool. But this is a movie with Mads Mikkelsen. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't some Joe Blow that they found a cool script and want to do it. Like, I don't know. It's sort of odd. I want to see the original. I've got no interest in watching a Leo version unless everyone says Leo's hilarious in it or something.
Yeah, I don't know if he could like pull off the same kind of joyful attitude that Mads has in the film. I don't know.
You think Leo?
Not that he's not a great actor, but I think Mads just fits that role better.
It doesn't have to be a beat for beat remake, though. That's the thing. I mean, like, it could just be an American interpretation that's different. I think that's the big thing that with like remakes and rewrites and shit, is that I've seen a lot of people really hating on this, and the fact that just read the subtitles and all that shit. But like, I think it's more than just a fact of Yankees can't read subtitles, so we need to remake it. I think it's the fact that people are taking this on because they have an interesting idea for it, or they have an interesting way to present it, in this different lens. I think the reason for creating it extends beyond.
Well, they might, they could just see it and, this is a successful international film, let's make some money off this, or it could be someone has a unique interpretation, but I don't know. It's usually the former, in my opinion. But
a bit of both, hopefully. A bit of both, hopefully.
Yeah.
So let's get into our highlights of the week. and I watched Snatch, Jaden.
Oh no, I saw you gave it a 7, and I was like, that's acceptable, but like, is it too washed out for you? Like the look of it?
So washed out. I hate how it looks. I hate it.
Right.
I hate it. Yeah,
That's just England for you. Grey.
I guess. The film is really good though. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's funny. Like it's one of those things where I really like Guy Ritchie as a director, and I think he's a really interesting person. I really enjoy like watching interviews with him. And I watched this like retrospective he did on Snatch. It was really cool. And everyone in the comments were doing the thing where like they're saying all their favorite lines from the movie, as YouTube comment sections do, and they're all really funny lines. And when I was doing this, I had an epiphany of I get it, like why these movies just don't fully. Like why it's not a 5-star movie for me, you know what I mean? Where it's like every single line I'm scrolling through, everyone loves. Like they're all funny, and they're all lines I remember from the movie immediately, and I thought that was funny. But none of them are like cracking me up. You know what I mean? They're all like smirks for me, and I think that's literally putting my finger on what it is. It's just like the movie's funny, the movie's cool. It's just none of it's like, you know what I mean, really getting me to that next level humor wise. I think that's honestly all it is. So I don't know if I actually have any like much to criticize other than I hate the way it looks. And I think that's honestly more just my comparison to The Gentleman. Gentleman looks amazing in my opinion. It just looks. I love the way it looks, and this is like such a stark contrast, which is interesting because it's like meant to be in the same vein genre-wise, obviously. Which I love how Guy Ritchie gangster flick is a genre. But yeah, it's a genre I'd love to see more from him. Tell me about yourself, Jaden. What have you been watching?
This anime film I watched called 5 centimeters per second, and it's actually related to next week's film because it's the same creator. Spoilers for next week's film.
Oh, okay.
I really love it. It's really fantastic. This is the third work of that creator I've seen. I don't want to say his name because I forgot it and I don't want to butcher it. But he tells such delicate stories, in my opinion. Especially like this one and Garden of Words. You know, I think there's a lot of similarities in these two. But then if you look at Your Name, it's a bit more fantastical and it's so fucking great. But yeah, so with this, it's this story of isolation and kind of distance. In a modern world, as I say, it's 2007, which is a modern world, but you know, it's interesting examining how different it is because you know it's about the distance between these two friends and they communicate through letters and shit. But had it been 4 years later, you know, they'd be so much more connected with like phones and all that stuff, and it's interesting in that context as well. And like he handles his character so well, and it's so strongly imbued with emotion, and it's one of the most gorgeous films you'll ever see. I think that's something that it's something prevalent in all three of his films I've seen. Like it's the best animation I've ever seen. Like, you know, because there's this like dynamic quality to it. You know, full respect to Miyazaki and Ghibli and all that stuff, but there's this added level of depth, you know, that makes it really fantastic. You know, and like it's a story told in 3 parts. You know, each it's episodic really, and like yeah, it's just really brilliant.
What about you, Fitzy?
I don't really got anything. Last movie I saw was Judas and the Black Messiah there, and I don't really have a lot to say about that. It was just the acting from Lakeith and Stanfield and Danny Kaluuya was really great, but you know, I think there are emotional moments in terms of like the injustices in the story. I think the movie does a really great job at showcasing all of that. It doesn't really feel like there's a betrayal in the film because you really never get close to either one of them. They were both nominated for supporting actor, which is really funny because it's kind of, well, it's not true because you know, Lakeith Stanfield is the main actor, but it's true in the sense that neither of them are really given the enough attention to make them as fleshed out as they could have been. But yeah, I think it was still pretty good. It was pretty well made, you know. So I'd still recommend it.
As always, now we hand the show over to you with our question of the show. Last week we asked you, what is your favourite MCU movie /show/thing? Andy said, me after seeing Iron Man up to Captain America, The Winter Soldier. Yeah, they're fun, entertaining, and cool movies, but Marvel is not cinema. Well, so he's the Martin Scorsese here, taking that route. Me after seeing Tony Leung in the Shang-Chi teaser trailer, star of Infernal Affairs, of course, people. Check out the podcast on episode 43, wink, wink. I didn't add that, Andy actually wrote that. That's how good he is. As I said all along, Marvel is cinema. Shang-Chi's about to win Andy over. Yeah, nah, I don't have a favourite MCU film or show because I stopped watching it The Winter Soldier, but I might encourage myself to get back on the MCU train and hopefully have a favourite one day. Hey, fair enough. So what, can we just like, but he's seen up to Winter Soldier, so like, surely Winter Soldier's his favourite, right? If that's something better before that point.
Nothing better afterwards either.
I'll set you up for that. Thank you, Andy. Luke said, I really enjoyed Doctor Strange. I was surprised by this pick. I enjoyed the visuals and was excited to see the characters on the big screen. My rewatch has made me, more appreciative of the films I forgot about a bit more. Ant-Man is good, and I enjoyed Age of Ultron and Civil War. Winter Soldier was a great movie, and rewatching those fight scenes was great. Thank you, Luke. Luke is definitely not in the Martin Scorsese train. He's a big fan here, obviously. Doctor Strange. Fair enough. I feel like I need to rewatch Doctor Strange not on an aeroplane seat. You know, maybe I'll appreciate the visuals a bit more because they did stand out as unique, but I wasn't getting the breadth of them. I don't think.
Only a little, 4-inch screen.
Yeah. We know what Jaden's answer is, so how do we get it out of the way?
The Winter Soldier, surprise, surprise, is my answer. Did I talk about it in the show last week or 2 weeks ago, or whenever I did? I don't know. Yeah, it's just, undoubtedly the best one. It's amazing action. It's great. It works as a brilliant spy espionage thriller without any other, without any of the context of, the characters or the history or the wider franchise. I think what they do with, I mentioned earlier the introduction of the Winter Soldier is so great, and I think that what they do with the characters in this film with the Rogers, and you kind of, this kind of wake up to, the evil that's, underlying within. I think, even with Black Widow and, I think the introduction of Sam Wilson's fine. I mean, I think after watching the Winter Soldier, this show rather, it's, I appreciate his character more, but yeah, so I think it's really great, yeah.
Hell yeah, man. Fitzy?
Guardians of the Galaxy would still be my favourite, one of my favourites. Just very groovy movie, it's a great soundtrack.
That's a great way to put it.
I think James Gunn definitely shines through a bit. Pushing through that Marvel style a bit, giving his own unique. You can see the James Gunness, in the film, and I think the comedy is still great, and it just holds up as a great movie.
I always loved the end dance off. When they dance off with what's his name, Ronan?
Yeah.
I thought that was funny because Ronan's the most generic villain ever, but it plays off that. Well, obviously,
Spider-Man
my favorite is one of the best movies ever made, Avengers Endgame. Duh. There's no other answer. Okay, I reject both your opinions. All right. Endgame's an amazing movie. I can't believe it didn't have its 2-year anniversary recently. I can't believe it's as good as it is still. My whole thing going into Infinity War, and I like Infinity War quite a bit less, but I still think it's great. But my whole thing going into that movie was there's no holy way any filmmaker can juggle this many characters and make it a compelling story. You know what I mean?
And they couldn't.
But nah. What? No, get out of here. No, totally. Oh, do you actually feel that way?
In part.
Are we gonna do an episode on it just so we
Patreon mini episode.
There you go. Yeah, that's great. It's a bonus episode.
Yeah, we have 100 something subscribers now. We can start up the Patreon.
Dude, if 3 of them join for $1 a month, that's
$3
a month.
$1 for each of us.
That's $1 a month each. How good's that? I mean, that'd make it worth it, wouldn't it? But anyway, I don't know. If you've seen the movie, you know it's amazing. I don't really know what else to say. So the way it handles every character, the melodrama. My favourite part of the movie is the first hour. I love the whole movie, but first hour is my favourite. Just like sitting with the characters, dealing with everything. It's just I find it so satisfying to watch. And the time heist is an amazing idea for a set piece as well, because as hype as the final fight is, where they all team up and take down Thanos once and for all, as hype as it is, like it's still like what you'd expect from a major, climax to a movie like that. And I love how the time heist was something I was not expecting going into it, and I thought it was really fun. And made all the previous movies like built up to this, made it totally worth your investment in the universe. That's it for this week's episode of Cinema Effect. Fitzy, what's going down next week?
The weather, the rain. The rain's going down.
Hey.
Because we're watching Weathering with You. It's an anime film. It's on Netflix, so yeah. If you want to be a weeb, check it out.
I'm scared. I really am. I think the only weeb film I've seen is Totoro.
Yeah, this probably won't be the best jumping off point for you, but we'll see.
No. Yeah, we'll see. I want to like it. See how much my prejudice gets in the way. Thanks, guys, for joining me. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week, and goodbye.